Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
And that's that. We can stand up and fight and ride all day through the night. We can make this change right and see our hopes and our dreams come to fruition. It's time to unite as one, calling out to our founding fathers. This is our mission to make you
Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to Humanity Awaken Radio. I'm your host, Brian Bolin, and with me as always is my co-host, Phil McNamara.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
We're really stoked about the show. We're really excited about the overwhelming response that you guys are really, enjoying this. You guys are getting engaged with the conversation. And we're really stoked to get this off and running.
Yeah, we really are. I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback from my friends and people that are listening to the show, and so I'm very excited and really happy to be part of this.
All right, guys. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about our UFO/ET experiences.
Yep.
And this is going to be kind of an intense episode. I know for me, I'm feeling a little anxious, talking about this. It's for me, this is like a really, really personal subject. And I know it's part of my awakening process to talk about these things and to relive and remember these experiences. And, if I really want to be a crusader of truth, I have to be willing to sit through these uncomfortable feelings and speak my truth with all of you.
Yeah, and me too. I feel exactly the same way as you do, Brian. It's stuff that is profoundly life-changing when it happens to you. If it hasn't happened to you yet, I hope that it does, because it will change the way you look at the world.
In one sense of thinking about it, we probably wouldn't even be sitting here together talking in front of this microphone right now with this podcast to all of you guys right now, because I know that these experiences for me spawned my initial interest in all these subjects. And before this, I really wasn't interested in anything to do with the world and world events. Last thing I was thinking of was UFOs and ETs and stuff like that, or government conspiracies. I was playing in a band in high school and playing guitar and singing. That was all I really cared about. That was my passion. It still is my passion. But when you get awakened to these things and your worldview changes in such a way where you understand we're not the top of the food chain anymore, that for me was such a wake up call. I remember being in school when I was younger thinking, oh wow, we don't have to worry about predators like they do in the wild to snatch them up and grab them. And then once you get awakened to that's not really the case, and you get the sheets pulled out from under you, it gets really real.
Yeah, it is, and it was a profound. I grew up in a really kind of abnormal experience, so. I was always off kilter a little bit, and I was really aware that reality wasn't what I thought it was from a really young age. And I didn't know what it was. I couldn't understand the specifics of it. It wasn't until I got older, got into high school, started partying a little bit, and then things sort of opened up for me, and I had some, I've been a big Star Trek fan all my life, so, and Star Wars fan, and I know there's a rivalry, but I actually love both movies, both genres.
I'm a Star Wars guy for sure, but I do love the new Star Trek movies.
Yeah, see, I'm a big Trek fan. I've met most of the original cast and have gone to conventions and stuff like that. So that idea of not being alone in the universe is really, really just a normal part of my existence. So.
All right, guys. Well, before we get right into the thick of things, we wanted to cover some news first. Phil, you want to start that off?
Yeah, just something that I wanted to bring up. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world that maybe we don't know about here in America because our Rothschild-controlled media outlets are blacking out a lot of stuff that is going on around the world that we should know about. And one of the things that's been going on, I don't know if you've been aware of this, but after the crash in 2008 of the financial system, Iceland took the forefront on this, and they jailed all of their bankers. They removed all of the bankers from their positions, all of their government officials that were corrupt, jailed everyone. And what they've done now is they have done what's called a debt forgiveness, where all of the people in their country have been forgiven of all of their debt. Can you imagine what would happen in this country if we did that? With all your student loans, all the credit cards, all the car loans, all the stuff that we've been bogged down with all of our lives was just forgiven. Everything, and not just personal, but actual, like every kind of loan that goes on in the country, all the bank loans, everything just forgiven. They're getting a clean slate and they're going to start over. It would be an extraordinary experience to have that happen in this country. We really should. So.
I also want to say too that the only place that I've seen any kind of news about this is on Facebook. I mean, Facebook is completely proven to be an extremely insightful source for news that we won't get on Fox and CNN. It's just we live in such a controlled media environment, and I've always had an intuitional feeling that the elites put social media out to distract us from this kind of information, and it's completely failing.
Yeah, I think it went backwards.
It totally went backwards. I mean, social media has done nothing but wake more people up.
Absolutely. I mean, I live on social media. I absolutely adore it, and I can't. I get a lot of my news honestly from alternative news sources.
We've gone from posting pictures about what we're eating to stuff about Iceland.
My friends still do though.
Sometimes we do, but I mean, to be honest, more and more I'm seeing more people post things that are like, I don't know what it is, but I guess I would just call it maybe more humanity oriented, and I don't know if that has anything to do with the consciousness shift possibly going on, where people are using social media more maturely now.
I think that's absolutely happening, and I am noticing a huge change in my feed. I know that there's a lot of there's the Michigan water crisis and climate change and on all of this stuff that's going on, and I'm seeing a lot more of these issues in my feed. Of course, the election.
If you guys, we want you guys to be involved in this conversation. Like,
absolutely.
If you guys are noticing this, make sure to comment and let us know how you've noticed it changing. Because just us talking about this isn't enough. We need to know that the community and the environment around us is seeing this change as well. But Phil, I wanted you to actually go a little bit more into the Michigan water crisis because I didn't know about that until today. Like, I don't watch mainstream news, like I was saying, so it's just all the news I get is from social media or alternative talk radio, lectures that I go to.
Okay. So basically, what's been going on in Flint, Michigan, is that the water crisis is that they have the water has been poisoned. It's so bad that the pictures that I've seen on the internet of it are horrific. The water is almost looks like an orangey green gel. It's disgusting, and children have been drinking this and they're getting sick. The government of Flint, Michigan knows about it, knew about it before it happened. The pipes are rusting and causing this just foul rusty, nasty gunk to fill their water pipes. And so some of the remedies that have been going on, because I don't want to go too on it, you can look this up on the internet. It's all over the place. You just get involved. I actually, the first thing I saw Cher sent 122,000 bottles of water to Flint. And then there was a Muslim group that sent 30,000 bottles.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it's incredible. And so I sent 20 cases of water to Flint myself. I'm not made of money, but I just did that. I thought it was the right thing to do. And people are really starting to step up. And then now the government is stepping in. The FBI is starting an investigation into what happened there. I mean, we can't be poisoning our water.
Like, okay, so on that note, Phil and I, we live in LA. And, we know the water in most like metropolitan areas are just filled with sodium fluoride and hydrofluorosilicic acid, which are just basic two different types of fluoride in the water. And this stuff is not to make our teeth healthier, folks. I mean, we know too that like that whole notion about fluoride helping teeth is like short term, maybe long term. You can get fluorosis. I think,
yes.
Is that what it's called?
I believe that's what it's called. I believe I'm one of those sufferers, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I've had a lot of tooth problems as I've gotten older as a result of using fluoride toothpaste and fluoridated water, and it's a horrific thing. And it also causes brain damage, from what I understand. And it also clogs the pineal gland in your brain that helps you ascend. And
absolutely. If you guys want to be, the fullest level of awake, like I don't drink anything fluoride related water, the tap water, no, there's just no way. I have a Kangen water unit set up in my apartment, and it's drastically changed my life. I'm not saying you need to drink alkaline water or not, but like I enjoy the benefits of it, and I know I like resting my head on the pillow at night knowing that I did my part to keep my pineal gland from being continuously calcified. I mean, if you think about it, from birth, our pineal glands have been calcified from birth.
Yeah.
And that completely affects our spiritual growth and our spiritual ascension, and us maintaining a level of being human beings with each other. I mean, I'm at a place now where I look at everyone in the world, man, woman, whatever the race is, and when people talk about other people, they're like, yeah, this dude down at the bus stop, he was just being blah, blah, blah. I mean, oh, you mean that human being?
Right. Exactly.
Like we're all just human beings, and we're just so divided by thinking that because of our sex or race that makes us different, and it's just not the case, ladies and gentlemen.
It really isn't. We're all the same. There's no difference. Our DNA is absolutely the same. There may be a tiny discrepancy in it, but by and large, we are exactly the same being. And so if we start treating ourselves that way, and you start looking at everybody as a part of who we are, as part of our experience, we'll have a much better world. Just that one, just kindness. Just be kind.
Also, on another level, we have to understand that we're involved in a spiritual fight. This is spiritual warfare between us and the negative elites, or the negative ETs, or what the negative AI, who knows at this point. Like, whatever is going on, or you could even call it Satan or Lucifer.
Right.
This negative energy that we're fighting against, that's infiltrated its way into our world, is, in my experience, in the sense of just seeing from my research, like, there's a very evil agenda going on here, and part of that agenda is dumbing us down and thwarting our level of spiritual threshold. And that's what's going on with the weaponization of our water right now. I mean, not to mention there's tons of heavy metals in it. Just a whole bunch of crap in the water. But we could spend a whole show on this.
Yeah, we could. And it's, we really, as a race, we have to... This is the thing. If once people start to realize that they're in control of the world and not just the small group of people, the teeter-totter will go the other way. And you've got to start thinking that way. There's 7 billion of us, and maybe a few 100,000 of them, and we're letting them control everything: the way we eat, what we watch on TV, how we live, all of it.
Speaking of TV, it does have to stop. But speaking of TV, the predictive programming of like hero programming, we need a hero to save us.
Right.
This every single show you watch. I mean, I get that's part of like our soul growth and our soul journey of like, you know, being on the hero's journey, and like that's really important. But it's kind of all turned around in a lot of TV programming where we need to rely upon government to save us, and they're the heroes, and we need to turn over our rights and give, you know, to Homeland Security so that we can be more safe. And that thought process is programmed into us in television and movies.
Exactly, and I'll be really honest. Some of my favorite shows are those kind of shows where there's a hero that has to come and save the human race from itself, because we're just these mewling infants that can barely function, and the cops are all idiots, and you know nobody can handle anything, and here comes this alien or metahuman or crazy psychopath or whatever it is, and we have to really start thinking that we can do this. We can do this. You know, they talk about this in government all the time. They say, you know, the president's job number, the numbers for all this stuff. The president didn't come out and give us jobs. We went out and created those jobs ourselves. The business people in this country did that. The president just takes the credit.
So you're talking about the quote where he goes, "You go out and start your own home business? Well, you didn't do that. Government did that."
Right.
That.
That's exactly that quote. I almost fell on the floor when I heard him say that. That's a pretty good impression, actually.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, we really got to start, you know, realizing that we're actually the ones that are running the country. This is the government for the people, by the people, and of the people, not of some of the people. All of the people. We all matter. So let's start really having conversations in our homes and our businesses and with our friends about how we can be proactive in our own situation and make our lives better.
Well said, Phil. One last piece of news I wanted to cover. Not really news, but this weekend coming up, we have the Super Bowl, and I'm very interested to see what goes down in the Illuminati music ritual this year. If you guys haven't been following this, the last couple of years I've just been out of control. I mean, last year we have Katy Perry riding in on the Beast, looking like she's, you know, the whore of Babylon. Like straight up Scarlet Letter status. And
The Madonna.
oof.
Oh, that was terrifying. Doing the, it was a ritual of a goddess, and I want to say, I can't remember the name of them. I can't remember. Yeah, it was either Isis or somebody like that. I can't remember what the name of the goddess is, but it was very blatant that that's what they were doing.
If you guys don't understand, the elites are obsessed with Babylon and ancient Egypt. They believe that's where their lineage is from, so they have to do these literally rituals on screen. It's come out of Bohemian Grove, literally, and like come on to television screens in front of all of us. And
they're doing it in such a way that it looks like really great entertainment. It looks like, oh my God, this is so beautiful, and look at all they're doing. Look at the dancers spinning around, and look at all this red stuff, and it's blood, you guys. It's blood. And they're it's you know, it's stunning, and we're all mesmerized by it, and it's the halftime show, and 50 million people are watching this thing happen. You know, they're eating hot dogs and stuff, and so, you know, which are, well, I won't even get into that, but
by tuning in to watch, we're giving them our consent too.
Absolutely. You know, and I'm not a big sports fan. I wouldn't even know. I don't even, honestly, to tell you the truth, know who's playing, but I will watch.
Well, it's sports, but
yeah.
But yeah, the bigger story here is because so we have Coldplay, and Bruno Mars is rumored to play, probably going to play, and Beyonce. So we know some stuff's going to go down with Beyonce. It's just, what is it going to be? Like, it's going to happen. Yeah,
it's going to happen, and it'll be very interesting, because now, I never used to watch these halftime shows. I would watch them, but I never watched them with these eyes. Now that I know what I'm looking for, it's stunning, and it happens on all of our, you know, and all of the music programs too, all the big award shows too.
Oh yeah.
So,
also, Coldplay. I've just been seeing some stuff online that's kind of making me think, and I'm gonna make a prediction right now that this is gonna have some kind of, the show. This is just a prediction. Could happen, could not happen, but that they're gonna have some kind of initiation with Coldplay. That they've gone to the dark side, maybe. I don't know how or what shape or form that will take, but you know, if this happens, this means that the Illuminati is moving on from single artists to bands. That they're going to start initiating into some of these rituals on TV.
Yeah. I hope they don't. I really. But that's
But
what
that's
they're
part of the
there
whole
for.
inversion.
Right.
Taking something that's sacred that everyone loves and then flipping it on its head.
Right. Exactly.
So we'll see.
Yep. We will. I can't wait to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And
I want to make it clear too that like when we talk about like Beyonce or Lady Gaga or any of these people that are having these literal or Kesha Luciferian symbolism on stage, Madonna, um, whatever it is, I'm not saying they're bad.
No,
I want to make
not
that
at all.
very clear. I'm saying that someone organizing the show, like the choreographers, the artwork people, the stage designers, the heads of those have some kind of clear vision that they're doing some kind of symbolism with. And I think personally Beyonce could be a victim. I mean, there's a lot of stuff online to show that Jay-Z could even be her handler.
Yeah.
They're not actually like lovers. Like he's her handler to make sure that her programming stays up.
Right. And this is something that's been going on for a long time in music, and we won't get into the whole thing because it takes forever to get into all the background and backstory of it. But this isn't the first time this kind of stuff has been brought out, and because all of us listen to this music, it's really easy to use it as a ritual for everybody to see and get affected by, but not even realize we're being affected by it.
Correct.
So yep. So
All right, well, let's get into our experiences.
yeah, let's do that.
You want to start it off, Phil?
I'm sure. Okay. So what we're talking about here is our collective experience, or mine and Brian's experiences individually of what happened to us, and this is the first time I've ever really spoken about this publicly, because it was very traumatizing for me. But I want to get it out there because I know that there's a lot of people who actually have had similar experiences. This happened about a year and a half ago. I was laying in my bed, and just to preface this, we had just a couple of days before this, my roommates and I and a friend of mine had a UFO experience where we were all sitting in the house, and one of my roommates had gone to go walk her dog, and she came running back into the house, and she said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, all you guys gotta come outside right now." And we went outside, and we're looking up in the sky, and there's this orange orb, and it's pulsating right above. And from where I could tell, it was pretty large from where we were. I'm going to say that if it was maybe a few miles away, it could have been it was a large orb, and it was pulsating, and we're watching it for at least 5 or 10 minutes, and then at one point it just winked out. And we all just jumped back. It was like, oh my God, we just all saw that, and actually reported it to MUFON and everything else. A couple of days later, I'm laying in my bed, and I'm in that place, and I'm sure you've all been, between being asleep and being awake, and I call it the kind of the twilight area. And I became aware of the fact that I couldn't move. I couldn't physically move. And I knew I was asleep, sort of, and I wasn't awake. It was a very strange place to be, and I sort of drifted off, and I was trying to struggle to move. And then I opened my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, there was a gray staring at me, looking me right in the eyes. And when I'm saying close enough that I could see the wrinkles on its face. It was the most terrifying thing. I opened my mouth to scream, and no sound came out. And I'm looking right into its. And if you want to get an idea of what it looks like, if you go to Whitley Strieber's book Communion, and look at the gray or the being on the cover of that book, that's what this thing looked like. I've never had this happen to me before.
A lot of people have seen the cover of that book and had very, very intense reactions from it.
Okay, good. Well,
like in a subconscious way, I'm sure. Like maybe they had it and they're remembering.
When I woke myself up, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, in my entire life, and I'm 50, I have never been so scared. I was shaking from head to toe for an hour. Like I couldn't stop myself from shaking. And I didn't know I knew subconsciously what had happened to me. I don't think it was an actual abduction. I don't lose any time. Nothing like that happened, but something entered my consciousness that was malevolent, and it scared me to death. And a couple of days later, the dog that we lived with was sleeping outside my bedroom door for a few nights. I don't know whether he knew what was going on or whether he sensed that I was frightened, but I'm telling you, this is probably one of the most frightening things that ever happened to me. And thank you for letting me get that out because I really needed to talk about that. And if you're having that experience, please hit us up on Facebook and let us know. We want to hear about you.
Real quick, Phil, what time did this event happen at in the night?
And from what I remember, it happened at about 3 o'clock.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that similarity in time in just a little bit.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I can still visualize this creature. I don't know what if it had breath, I would have been able to smell its breath. That's how close it was to my face, and I couldn't move. So either it was terror that was pinning me down, or some sort of energy. I just don't know. So that's what happened to me. Brian, what kind of stuff has happened to you? I know some of it, so.
All right, guys. Well, let's just get right into this. My events started happening in 2009. Things really started to pick up in January of 2009. I saw my first sighting at a party with some friends. I think it was the end of summer. Might have been around like September. And around this time, so here's like some backtrack. Like basically, I was in a band. I had just gotten kicked out, and we were about to just really like take off. Like we just got signed to a record deal, and I started drinking more and like using drugs, and then all of a sudden, they kicked me out, and I was just crushed. Okay, and during this time, so I started partying more. And I had a lot of free time on my hands. I was living at my parents' house. I started recording for Enter the Paradox, my current band right now. This is when I first started tracking. And I had a bunch of time to write. And basically my life looked like this. Like I would wake up, jog in the morning. For some reason I always jogged, in the morning to start my day off. And then I would record all day and then drink and use. And that was pretty much my life. And then I started seeing these sightings. Now, I know first off, most people say, okay, like he saw sightings, he saw UFOs, he was drinking and using, his story is discredited. I feel like we have to be honest about this stuff. And I'm going to flat out say it, like, yeah, I saw a lot of this stuff when I was drinking and using. I saw a lot of it when I was completely sober. Most of it happened when I was sober, but I was in a very dark time in my life. And I truly believe that these entities or government, whatever is really doing it, but I do feel it has some kind of ET connection to it or extra dimensional thing, but they can almost smell fear. They're attracted to it. And I mean, we really see this too with people who are meth users. We have constant reports of people seeing shadow people. I mean, shadow people, it's a very real thing. Like we can't keep it's like, okay, it's like if a bunch of people do LSD together, they're not going to all see the same exact thing if they're tripping and hallucinating. That's just not necessarily how it works. And when I'm with a bunch of other people who are sober, when we see experiences and they see the same thing, there's something going on there. It's not just mass hallucination. I mean, the odds of that happening so many times with like the crazy amount of high strangers I've experienced, it's just not the case. So I just wanted to have that little disclaimer at the beginning and just kind of go from there. And in my heart, I do believe that these experiences all happened in some way, shape, or form. And I was with other people too that can verify a lot of this stuff. Okay, so started with seeing a party with friends in 2009. I saw a white orb. It was toward the mountain range in LA. And it started doing the famous falling leaf effect that we see in so many UFO cases. And keep in mind at this time, I'd not even delved into UFO research at all. And I learned later that that was a common call sign. And we were sitting there watching this thing on this porch bench, and just like we're watching it for like a long time. Everyone else at the party's like, yeah, whatever. And like me, a couple of guys are watching, and we're like, no, man, there's something really weird about that. It's just moving not normally. I mean, like we're in LA, like we see planes, helicopters flying around all the time. So I became obsessed with I had all this free time in my hand, identifying the routes that the airplanes were going, and the jets, and the where the airports were, what the helicopters were doing, what their lights looked like. So I knew what planes were, and I knew what helicopters were and what they were not after a couple months of looking at this stuff. And then I started researching, my first little bit of research got into like Bob Lazar and his whole story, and like that's when I had my first like awakening. I talked about in the last episode. I was like, there's something to this, and like I started to feel my intuition really speaking to me and saying, there's something to this, Brian. You need to look into this. And I heard the term. I forget what the term was, but it was just like, just look up, like at the skies, like in a show I was watching or something. We're so busy in our day to day. We have no time to sit in the sky watch, look at the sky, and like there's stuff going on up there. And I said, okay, let's see what's going on up there. And I made this proclamation statement to the universe where I said, if there's something going on, I want to see it. I'm ready. Good or bad, let's do this. And pretty much from that, and it was like a heavy moment, like when I was truly just letting this, I am open to whatever comes. And something came. I mean, literally from the time I said that, over the next, starting in January, I had nonstop sightings, and it could have gone as far as a year, 6 months, 8 months. I don't really know exactly when it stopped, because there was just so much I had to stop looking after a while. But at the beginning, I got obsessed, and I kept looking and looking and looking, to the point where instead of just seeing them far away up in the sky, like things moving around, like very far away, I noticed them start to get closer. And I live in Palos Verdes. Well, this is where I grew up, but where my parents live. Palos Verdes Peninsula, Rolling Hills Estates area, right next to the Catalina San Pedro channel right there. And that trench right there has a depth of 14,000 feet. And so there's a lot of things that could be living in there. And there's a lot of people and UFO researchers who have talked about how there could be a UFO base there. And I would lend to believe that that's very, very true. I mean, the things that I was seeing were not coming from outer space. They were coming from literally my backyard, And so I started seeing these in the... and everyone in Palos Verdes and Rolling Hills Estates area, we all have like horse land. You can keep your horses there, and there's a lot of land for horses to run around. There's horse trails, and there's big old canyon there. And I started seeing lights in the canyon, and I started seeing them going around there's a lot of trees too, so I'd see them popping through the trees, and I'm like, there's something going on there. I don't even have to look up in the sky anymore. I'm starting to see this activity just outside. And so I was hanging out with two buddies one night, and I'm like, hey, you guys, okay, so I think I'm seeing lights in the canyon over here. And are you guys down to have a little stakeout? And so they said, yeah, sure. And so we went out. We got two sets of binoculars, or just one set of binoculars. This is before smartphones and all that, so we just literally went out just by ourselves with the binoculars, walked down in the middle of the canyon, a little bit away from my parents' house. We're there for about 10 minutes. It's starting to get kind of cold and dark almost, and this is right at sunset. We're like, okay, like there's nothing really here. And then we said, okay, let's wait 10 more minutes, and if we don't see anything, we'll leave. And they're like, okay. Literally right after I said that, coming from the east, we saw 3 orbs flying in and out of each other, just flying across the sky, heading towards the ocean, heading towards the direction of Catalina to the west. It flies right over our heads. Not directly over our heads. I mean, it's a couple thousand feet up. And then another wave comes of 6 orbs flying all in and out of each other, kind of like a bee swarm would. And that disappears overhead past the canyon towards the water. And then another wave comes of 9 orbs in the same bee swarming like pattern. And then here's where the big craft started coming in. The next craft I saw was, the only way to describe it was, it kind of was shaped like a broomstick would, but in that I haven't heard about this craft being talked about anything in ufology at all. But basically, when you look at these craft, you don't even see a hard outline. These things look like constellations. They literally look like stars. And I knew they were not stars, one, because I mean, they're intelligently moving towards the west, something that stars don't do. They look exactly like stars. And plus, the stars weren't out yet. There was one bit, I think when the North Star might have been out, you know, it was still pretty much blue sky. The sun was just coming down. There was like maybe one or two stars in the sky, and then we see all these. So it was painfully obvious that there was something going on here. And I had my binoculars, and it looked like there may have been like 100 of these constellation-like stars building up these craft. And when you looked in the binoculars, there must have been countless thousand and thousand and thousand of these little lights or whatever they were looking directly at this craft. I'm just completely mind blown when I'm seeing this. And this is one of those events where, out of many of my experiences, like when I try to remember this, something in my mind tries to force me not to remember, some kind of like amnesia or something. And I've had to really practice making sure I remember each and every second and every part of these experiences so that I can tell my truth to everyone about this. Continuing with the story, there's one more big craft that came in, and this thing was even bigger than all of them. It was this huge rectangular craft. And my mind's totally going to that fog place right now where it's getting really hard to remember the events. If anyone listening in the audience has this I'm going to call it like a condition, because I don't have this fog that comes in on my memory on any other events in my life, please comment and share it with us. I want to interact in the conversation with this, because this is something that, you know, I'd like to feel that other people are out there who've had this experience with the mental fog coming in. I think that there might have been another craft of a V or triangle shaped object. I'm pretty sure. I have some drawings that I made of that experience, and I actually sent it to MUFON. It's lying around somewhere at my parents' house, but I'd really love to dig up those. If I find the artwork, I'll post it online so everyone can see on Instagram. So that was that experience. Okay, so my next experience, I'm probably going to kind of go out of order here, just in the way that I remember it, because that whole year was just crazy for me. But so I'm starting to talk about this stuff, and, you know, I just feel this need to tell everyone I know, and, you know, my friends kind of start, like, you know, not wanting to hang out with me as much, starting to think I'm crazy, you know, like, it just kind of comes with the territory. But I remember just freaking out and thinking, like, oh my God, like, I need to call someone. I need to call the cops. No, they're not going to say anything. No, the Navy's not going to do anything. No, the Air Force isn't going to do anything. I mean, this thing goes so high up. It's like, I thought I was the first person to see UFOs who wasn't crazy. And it had such a profound experience on me. And I remember trying to, you know, I was like, okay, these things are right over our freaking house. You know, like, I have to tell my parents and my sister about this. And, you know, I proceeded to tell them, and they just didn't want to have any part of it. They were just like, okay, Brian's kind of off the deep end. Like, and I was freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, like, and I probably learned about the whole alien abduction experience the wrong time during all this, but I delved into it deeply because I felt this inner instinctual urge to, I have to save my family. I have to protect them. They don't believe me in this, and whether they believe me or not, I have a right. I need to protect them, because these things are getting too close. And now I know about alien abduction, and like, I was freaking out. My dad goes out to feed the horses every night at nightfall, sometimes around like 10 o'clock. And every time he did that, I was in serious fear for his life. I mean, this got to the point where I told my parents I was going to sleep. They'd go to sleep so I can go to work. I would stay up in the living room, keeping guard over the house. I just felt this need to do that, and I felt like I was doing my part. And the later you stay up and you start looking for these things or keeping a lookout for them, I mean, shit gets really creepy and really crazy. Especially like, okay, so like the area I live in, Palos Verdes, is just like the canyon, the the trees, you know, you don't, it's not like the city where like you feel secured because there's so many people around. If something happens, someone's going to see it. Here, there's not many people around, and it's not really rural, but they're still around the city. But in the area I was, it was rural compared to what, you know, a city person would think. So one night I'm looking out in the canyon, and I'm seeing this red light just fly around through the trees. And I go and get my dad. I say, okay, enough is enough, Dad. We need to call cops or something. That light is back again, and it's out there. It is seriously out there. Come look. This is the first time I tried to get my dad to come look with me, and he actually came out, and he thought I was, you know, completely tripping, literally. And I said, no, there's something going on here. He comes storming back in the house. And then right when he gets back in the house, I just hear, and I see the light go down towards the baseball field, Rolling Hills baseball field. So I said, Dad, come over here. I just saw it fly over here. We'll see the clear advantage over here. We go to the end of the horse stalls. He comes with me. And he says, see, Brian, there's nothing here, blah, blah, blah. It's not there. And I said, okay, we'll walk back. And feeling kind of like giving up, I was like, damn, I was really going to get my dad to see one of these, like get the alarm that I'm feeling. And then all of a sudden, as we're walking back, we just hear these sirens, like more sirens than I've ever heard in my life, still to this day. Just 10:30 at night, just blazing down this little hill, down to the Little League field. There's one road that goes down to the Little League field. And I'm just hearing like fire engines, like cop sirens. I'm like, oh my God, this thing crashed. You know, I'm just like freaking out. I'm like, this is for real. And then so we're standing there for like 10, 15 minutes, like watching all these emergency crew go down to this one little road down to the Little League field. Like, granted, from the vantage point where we're at, we couldn't see the road or the Little League field, but we knew it was right around the corner because I used to play baseball there, so I know where it is. It's really close. And, you know, we're not going to go walk down there in the middle of the night. I mean, there's coyotes around there too. You know, we didn't want to you don't want to be walking around the canyon at night. So he said, okay, something's going on there. He kind of got the alarm because he's like, okay, Brian saw something, and now there's like emergency vehicles there. So he was starting to think maybe there's something to this after that point, I'm sure. The next experience, I'm standing guard in the living room once again at night, and this particular night, instead of seeing orbs, I see the only thing I can describe as this molten lava, this intelligent sludge. And after doing some research, I mean, the only other event that comes up to me that sounds like this is, I think it's called the Maury Island incident. It happened in 1946, where a man, a dog, and his boy were out on this ferry or ocean, something, this lake, and this UFO comes over and starts dumping this like metallic, like lava-looking sludge right over them. Like, I don't think it knew that they were under it, but it just started jettisoning it, and the boy broke his arm, and like the sludge killed their dog, I think. And I didn't know about that story at the time when I saw this. I didn't know about any of this ufology stuff at the time. And so I'm seeing this stuff in the canyon, and I'm looking at it, and still to this day, I haven't heard anybody talk about this at any lecture, any talk radio. I haven't heard anyone talk about this. So if you guys have experienced this, especially if you live in Palos Verdes or Rolling Hills area, let us know. We want to hear about this. Okay, so this thing, not only is it moving around intelligent just right there in the canyon, it's making letters of the human alphabet. Now, this is just like beyond high strangeness. And I'm sitting there with my binoculars looking at this thing completely petrified. I'm feeling the tingle down my spine right now just talking about this. Imagine you're sitting at your comfort of your own home and you're looking out in the canyon and you're seeing this stuff. Granted, it was in between trees, so I couldn't get a clear vantage point at it. But this thing's moving around. I must have been watching it for an hour or two, just moving around. It literally looked like intelligent sludge, like molten lava, but it seemed to not be affecting the environment out there at all. And my sister comes out, and I say, Ashley, I want you to look at something through the binoculars here. And she was just like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm in the living room with binoculars, all the lights off, looking out in that canyon, looking like a complete lunatic. And she comes in, she didn't want to have any part of it. I was like, Ashley, if you do this, I'll never ask or involve you in any of this stuff again. Just please look for me, and so I know that I'm not crazy. And the last letter it made when I looked at it was an S. And when she got the binoculars, she freaked out and threw the binoculars in the ground and just basically almost started screaming. Just complete terror, petrified. I was like, what? What'd you see? I was really alarmed. And she said, it turned into a Z. It made a Z. So I knew that I wasn't the only person just imagining that this thing was, morphing into human letters of the alphabet. And so I started thinking, is this thing communicating? Did it end with a Z because, they're from Zeta Reticula? Because at that point, that was like all I knew about ufology. I was like, oh, they must all be from Zeta Reticuli. Yeah, if you guys don't know what that is, that's supposedly where, researchers claim that the grays come from Zeta Reticuli, which is a binary star planet, a binary star system. And
just for the record, they're not all from there.
Yes.
There's several races of grays, and
yes,
and so there's some that are here, and there's some that are there, and there's some that are a lot of places. So
yeah,
it's a pretty common biological form.
I would say so. Okay, so this actually isn't where the story ends, or it's just beginning.
Oh, just for the record, I've never heard any of this. This is the first time Brian's ever told me this, so I'm sitting here staring at him.
Some of it.
You told me some of it, but not in this detail. So I'm hearing this for the very first time. My mouth is just hanging open right now. So I just can't wait to hear how this ends. So keep going.
Okay, so I'm sitting there. Ashley's freaked out. It's my sister. We're sitting on the couch together. We're just kind of talking about it. I'm kind of consoling her because she's in complete shock and terror. And I'm like, yeah, this has been going on. I don't know what it is. I've been monitoring it to keep us safe, and this has been happening. And like, you see this, and you see it, and it's not from this world. There's no other human or originated explanation for it. And then she's like, well, what should we do? Should we stay up until? And at this point, it's like 2 a.m. And we're like, what should we do with it? Like, should we head back? Like, should we keep guard? Like, what should we do? Mom and Dad aren't gonna believe this. And keep in mind, we're both like I'm like 19, she's like 17 at this point. And I'm like, well, there's nothing else we can do. I mean, they just don't go away. They're not going away. So, I mean, we should just go get some sleep right now and just hope it goes away and move on with our day tomorrow. We say, okay. So we get up off the couch, and our first step walking back towards our bedrooms, this huge engulfing blue and green light just floods over the entire house. Like a huge floodlight, just for us, like a second and a half. It just went whoosh, and then just went away. And we were just in complete shock. I mean, just standing there completely motionless, just petrified. And I tell Ashley, I said, get away from the windows. Just get back. I'm going to go outside and check and see what's up with this thing. And I go outside. I kind of look up above at the sky, and I don't see anything. I say, okay, nothing's there. I mean, at this point, we were just so like, okay, like what could happen after this, And so that's how that night ended, and we just had to go to sleep. But I mean, like, how do you go to sleep after something like that? I mean, we were probably both staying up in bed for like an hour after that, just freaked out. And so that was that experience. Moving on to my missing time experience. So I'm coming back home one night. I was hanging out with some friends earlier. We weren't partying, we weren't drinking. I was completely sober coming back. And I'm driving down my parents' street, and I'm getting close to the cul-de-sac, and I'm looking down at the clock on my car, and I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. It's 10:20 right now. I still have some time to stay up, watch some TV, play video games, whatever, before I go to sleep. Awesome. And I was excited about that. And the second I look up after seeing the time, this like, I don't know how else to describe it. I'm probably going to use a lot of Star Wars references to explain some of the things I've seen, because it's the only thing I can describe it as. But this thing wasn't just like an orb. It it came over my car, and the closest thing I can describe it to looking like is an Imperial probe droid. You know, think at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, the Imperial probe droid, how the movie starts. This thing looked pretty much identical to that. It flew right over my car. It just came. I don't know what this is, but I kind of feel like I was at the wrong place at the wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing. This thing looked like as if, my explanation is that it was scouting. I don't know, just kind of observing the area. It just kind of lightly glided and flew over really slow over my car. Like, when I say close, I mean this thing was literally 6 feet above my car. That close.
Wow.
That close, 6 feet, maybe 5 feet. And the second it flew in front of my car, I black out completely. Complete blackout. I come to in my car, and I'm driving to the cul-de-sac. And keep in mind where this happened and where the cul-de-sac is. If you don't know what cul-de-sac is, it's like a little roundabout at the end of a street. This was maybe 30 feet away from where I blacked out, where the cul-de-sac was. And I'm coming to, I can't move my entire body. I'm completely paralyzed. The only thing I can move is my eyeballs. And I'm looking down using my peripheral vision. I see that my hands are turning the steering wheel. I'm not doing it. Some force is controlling it. And it's turning around the cul-de-sac perfectly, like hand over hand with the steering wheel. And then I come up to a complete stop, and I look in front of my parents' house where I always park my car. Always, right in front of the mailbox. And I'm not in control of my body doing this. All I'm doing is moving my eyeballs. I go down to put my hand on the steering wheel. I mean on the parking brake, the gear, the shift gear, and I put it into park. But I'm not doing it. Keep in mind, something else is controlling that. And I'm looking down, I see that, and then my hands return to the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock position on the steering wheel, and then all of a sudden I come to and I can feel I have motor movement again with my body, and I'm in such a state of shock that I just keep my hands there because I don't even want to move. I'm just like, what the F happened?
Right.
And here's the kicker. I look down at my clock on the phone, on my car, and the clock reads 11 p.m. So I lost 40 minutes of time in the time it would have taken me to move 30 feet in my car to reach that destination in front of my parents' house.
That's amazing. I have not heard this story from you. I'm just overwhelmed. I got one more. So, are you done? Because I want to make sure that did you get everything?
In that story, yeah.
Okay. So I got one more. So this one actually involves a little bit of when I was a younger guy, I was a bit of a party animal. At least I thought I was. I was a real fan of hallucinogens, and I thought that they would open up portals and doorways for me to see things, and they in fact do.
Too.
Yeah, they do. The problem is sometimes you go through a doorway that you shouldn't have gone through. And I believe that at one point I brought something back with me. The thing that I saw, and this again, I have never spoken about this publicly. Only a couple of my friends actually know about this. I nicknamed it the Ambler. And the only way to describe it is it's a 7-foot tall shadow with yellow eyes. And the only times I would ever see it, now I wouldn't even be on anything, on any kind of drugs at all. If I was walking home late at night, or I only see it at night, and I would only see it in, like, if I looked down an alley, if I looked into a dark space, it would be sitting there. And I really believe that this is something that attached to me as I was having this sort of hallucinogenic experience, and I brought it back. It stopped appearing to me probably about maybe 12 or 13 years ago, somewhere in there. I haven't seen it since, but for a long time I was afraid to go outside at night, and if I did, I would run a lot. And if you know me, you know I don't run. So unless something really bad is chasing me. And I just, I'm so glad that we're getting an opportunity to talk about these things. I know some of you out there are having similar experiences. Don't be afraid to comment on our Facebook page or on our Instagram. Please let us know that you're out there. We want to hear about you. We believe you. And so I just wanted to get that out. And so thank you for letting me talk about that one too.
All right, guys. So we're actually going to make this into a two-part episode. I have so many more stories that I want to share with you guys and get this all out public. So we're going to continue this on the next episode. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a comment on our Facebook page and our YouTube. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, we will see you guys next time and try to have part 2 out fairly soon, because I know this is a huge cliffhanger to just leave off at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
And we will see you guys next time.